Comprehensive analysis of the Lavender Scare. The Lavender Scare represents a dark chapter in U.S. history, marked by systemic discrimination against gay and lesbian federal employees during the mid-20th century, paralleling the anti-communist Red Scare. This video aims to provide a detailed examination, drawing from historical records, personal accounts, and official responses to offer a thorough understanding of it. Historical context and origins. The Lavender Scare emerged in the late 1940s, fueled by Cold War anxieties and moral panics about homosexuality. It was intertwined with the Second Red Scare, 1947 to 1957, where fears of communist infiltration dominated. The term Lavender Scare was popularized by David K. Johnson's 2004 book, inspired by Senator Everett Dirksen's 1952 reference to Lavender Lads needing removal from the State Department. A pivotal moment came in 1950 with the Hoey Committee, formerly the Investigations Subcommittee of the Senate's Committee on Expenditures in the Executive Departments, chaired by Senator Clyde Hoey. Comprising Senators James Eastland, John McClellan, Herbert O'Connor, Carl Munt, Andrew Schopel, and Margaret Chase Smith, with Joseph McCarthy temporarily resigning his seat on June 14, 1950, the committee conducted a 6-month investigation. It held 5 days of executive session hearings in July and September 1950, closed to the public, gathering information from federal agencies, law enforcement, judicial authorities, and medical experts, but notably, no gay men or lesbians testified. The committee's December 15, 1950 report, titled Employment of Homosexuals and Other Sex Perverts in Government, concluded that homosexuals were generally unsuitable and constituted security risks, citing vulnerability to blackmail, lack of emotional stability, weak moral fiber, bad influence on the young, and attraction of others to government service. It recommended enforcing policies banning immoral conduct, tightening sex crime laws in the District of Columbia, and improving agency communication. This report influenced security manuals, was sent to U.S. embassies and foreign intelligence agencies, and laid the groundwork for President Dwight D. Eisenhower's 1953 Executive Order T. 450, Security Requirements for Government Employment, effectively banning gay men and lesbians from federal jobs. By 1950, over 1,700 federal job applicants were denied positions due to allegations of homosexuality, with job losses increasing from approximately 5 to 60 per month between June and December 1950. In 1953, the State Department fired 425 employees for alleged homosexuality, and estimates suggest about 5,000 gay people were fired overall, including private contractors and military personnel under EO 10450. This order was rescinded in 1995 by President Bill Clinton, with further repeal in 2017 by President Barack Obama via Executive Order 3764. Scope and impact. The Lavender Scare's scope was vast, with estimates ranging from 5,000 to 10,000 federal employees investigated, interrogated, and losing jobs simply for their sexual orientation, as noted in a 2023 White House proclamation on its 70th anniversary. The impact was profound, with personal tragedies including suicides, as mentioned in a 2019 Foreign Policy article, highlighting the human cost. Lesbians faced less persecution than gay men, but some were interrogated or lost jobs, with the scare normalizing homophobia through bureaucratic institutionalization, as former Senator Alan K. Simpson noted, suggesting it harmed more people than the Red Scare. The cultural impact linked homosexuality with communism, seen as threats to the American way of life, influenced by Cold War homophobia, and shaped contemporary LGBT attitudes. Jamie Shoemaker, a linguist at the National Security Agency, was fired in 1980 after being interrogated about his sexuality, continuing a policy launched in 1953 showing the scare's longevity. Interrogations became commonplace in the 1950s and 1960s, with questions like, Do you identify as a homosexual, or have you ever had same-sex sexual relations aimed at rooting out LGBT employees? Despite the persecution, resistance emerged, notably through figures like Frank Kameny. Fired in 1957 from his astronomer position, Kameny became the first to fight his dismissal, taking his case to the U.S. Supreme Court in 1961, though he lost. In his brief, he argued anti-gay discrimination was no less illegal and no less odious than discrimination based upon religious or racial grounds, framing it as a human rights issue. He helped found a new gay organization in 1961 dedicated to securing for homosexuals the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, using his real name, a rarity at the time, and testified before Congress, led White House pickets, and assisted other fired workers in court. By 1969, several U.S. federal courts ruled the Lavender Scare policies unconstitutional, infringing on American freedoms, with the ban lasting into the 1990s until President Clinton's executive orders. The Lavender Scare inadvertently sparked the gay rights movement, with Kameny's activism and others' efforts highlighting the need for change. Documentaries like The Lavender Scare have since told this story, winning 16 awards for Best Documentary and receiving reviews like the Los Angeles Times calling it gripping, nimbly assembled, vivid, disturbing, and rousing. Government response and legacy. The government's response evolved over time, reflecting changing societal attitudes. In January 2017, outgoing Secretary of State John Kerry issued a formal apology for years of discrimination, stating, "These actions were wrong then, just as they would be wrong today. On behalf of the department, I apologize to those impacted." On behalf of the department, I apologize to those who were impacted by the practices of the past, and reaffirm the department's steadfast commitment to diversity and inclusion for all our employees, including members of the LGBTI community. However, this apology was removed from the State Department's website days after Donald Trump's inauguration in January 2017, as reported by The Advocate, suggesting political shifts. Legislative efforts continued, with the Lavender Offense Victim Exoneration Act, LOVE Act, introduced in 2019 by 18 Democratic senators, aiming to identify and correct employment records of those fired. This act seeks justice for those affected during the Lavender Scare. With Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey stating, "It is long past time for the U.S. government to recognize the stories of the LGBTI members of the State Department who were treated unfairly during the Lavender Scare, and to offer them and their families a measure of justice." The legacy includes shaping contemporary LGBT attitudes, with the State Department apologizing in January 2017 and noting investigations continued into the 1990s. These actions have had a lasting impact on current LGBT dynamics. Media like the 2016 opera and 2023 miniseries Fellow Travelers have also explored this history, ensuring it remains part of public discourse and educating new generations about the Lavender Scare. Comparative analysis. To contextualize, the Lavender Scare's impact was arguably more pervasive than the Red Scare in terms of personal lives affected, with former Senator Alan K. Simpson noting it harmed more people. Unlike the Red Scare, which is taught in schools, the Lavender Scare is less known, as highlighted in a 2020 Time article, underscoring educational gaps. This highlights the need for comprehensive education on all past governmental oppressions. Conclusion. The Lavender Scare's legacy is one of injustice, resistance, and eventual acknowledgement, with ongoing efforts to rectify past wrongs through apologies and legislation. Its legacy includes shaping policies that prevent such discrimination in the future. Its study is crucial for understanding U.S. history, particularly the intersection of sexuality, security, and civil rights, ensuring such discrimination is not repeated.